The applause for Jaden's original sustainable urban plaza concept hit me like a punch to the gut. It was my idea, every line, every eco-material choice, every late-night sketch I had poured my soul into, now glowing on the big screen under his name at Horizon Designs in downtown Manhattan. I sat frozen in the back row of the conference room, the same room where Jaden and I had worked side by side until 3 in the morning just 2 weeks earlier. My hands clenched the armrests so hard the wood creaked. Around me, partners clapped and slapped Jaden on the back, calling it genius, visionary, exactly what the city needed for the green future competition. Jaden stood there smiling, that easy, confident smile I had fallen for months ago, the one that made his dark eyes crinkle at the corners and lit up the whole room. He didn't even glance my way. My chest tightened until breathing hurt. How could he? We were more than colleagues. We were the guys who finished each other's sentences, who grabbed late-night tacos on the High Line when deadlines loomed, who had shared quiet moments where something unspoken hung between us. I had trusted him with the idea because I trusted him with everything. And now he was taking credit like it was nothing. The meeting ended in a blur of handshakes and congratulations. I slipped out before anyone could stop me, heart hammering as I headed straight for the stairwell instead of the elevator. My sneakers echoed on the concrete steps all the way down 20 floors. By the time I reached the lobby, my vision was blurry. I pushed through the revolving doors into the bright September afternoon and kept walking until the noise of 6th Avenue swallowed me. Back in my tiny Brooklyn apartment that night, I stared at the ceiling, replaying every conversation. 2 months ago, I had shown him the full presentation deck on my laptop. "This is gold, Wyatt," he had said, leaning so close his shoulder brushed mine. "You're going to win that competition." I had laughed it off, told him I wasn't ready to submit yet. He had looked at me then, really looked, and for a second I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he just squeezed my arm and said, "When you're ready, I've got your back." Apparently his back was the only thing he had. I called in sick the next 2 days. My phone buzzed nonstop with texts from Jaden. "Hey man, you okay? Missed you at the debrief. The partners loved it. We should celebrate." I didn't answer. On the 3rd day, my boss emailed, "Wyatt, need you in the office. Important client meeting." I dragged myself in, eyes red from lack of sleep. Jaden was waiting by my desk when I arrived, 2 coffees in hand like some peace offering. His hair was still damp from the shower, and he wore the navy button-down I secretly loved on him. "Wyatt, talk to me. You've been ghosting everyone." I took the coffee but didn't drink it. "You know exactly why." He glanced around the open-plan office, then lowered his voice. "Not here. Roof. 5 minutes." I followed him up, the wind whipping my shirt as we stepped onto the gravel-covered terrace with its view of the Empire State Building. Jaden leaned against the railing, staring out at the city like it owed him answers. "I didn't mean for it to happen like that," he started. "The boss cornered me after you left that night. Said the client wanted something immediately or we'd lose the pitch. Panicked. I knew your concept was perfect, and I used it. I thought I could fix it later, give you credit once it was approved." "Fix it?" My laugh came out bitter. "You stood up there and let them call it your vision." His shoulders slumped. "I know. I'm sorry. I was scared, Wyatt. Scared of losing the account. Scared of other things." He looked at me then, eyes full of something raw I couldn't name. "I never wanted to hurt you." The wind carried his words away before I could respond. Below us, taxis honked and pedestrians hurried along sidewalks. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But the betrayal sat heavy in my stomach like lead. "I need time," I said finally. "Just give me space." He nodded, but the hurt in his face mirrored my own. As I walked away, I realized the worst part wasn't even the stolen idea. It was realizing how much I had let myself care about a man who could do that to me. The next weeks blurred into long hours at my drafting table at home. I threw myself into a new concept, something even bolder. a community center that blended green roofs with public art spaces. No one at the office knew. I kept it locked on my personal laptop. Every night I sketched until my fingers cramped, trying to drown out the memory of Jaden's voice, his smile, the way his hand had lingered on my shoulder that night. My phone stayed silent from him after that rooftop talk. Good, I told myself. But at 3 in the morning I would stare at our old text thread and wonder why it hurt so much more than the theft. Then came the call from home. My mom's voice on speakerphone, bright and hopeful as always. "Wyatt, honey, your cousin's wedding is in November. We told Aunt Linda you'd bring a date. There's this nice girl from church, Sarah. She's a teacher." "Mom, I'm not dating anyone right now." Dad jumped in the way he always did. "Son, you're 30 next year. Time to settle down. A man needs a family, stability. All this big city design stuff is fine, but life isn't just work." I gripped the phone until my knuckles whitened. They didn't know. They couldn't know. The words "I'm gay" had been stuck in my throat since college, and every time I tried, their expectations choked them back down. Now, with my career in pieces and my heart raw, the weight felt crushing. "I'll think about it." I lied and hung up. That weekend I went for a run in Central Park, trying to clear my head. The leaves were turning gold, and couples walked hand in hand. I watched 2 guys laughing together on a bench, one leaning in to kiss the other's temple, and something inside me cracked open. I wanted that. I wanted to stop hiding. But how, when even the one person I had trusted most had betrayed me? Monday morning I walked into the office ready to quit. Instead, I found an email from the Green Future competition organizers. "Congratulations, Wyatt Thompson. Your independent submission has been shortlisted for the national award." My new concept, the one I had created alone, in pain, in anger. I stared at the screen, heart racing. Maybe Jaden hadn't taken everything after all. The shortlist announcement spread through the office like wildfire by lunchtime. People I barely knew stopped by my desk to congratulate me. "Didn't know you entered separately, man." Bold move. I smiled tightly and said thanks, but inside I was reeling. Jaden hadn't said a word to me since the roof, yet I caught him watching me across the open floor, his expression unreadable. By afternoon my boss called me into his glass-walled office. "Wyatt, the partners are impressed. That community center concept is fresh. We want to fast-track it for the city bid." He leaned back in his leather chair. "And between us, Jaden's plaza idea is getting some pushback from the client. Sustainability concerns. Might need revisions." I kept my face neutral. Part of me felt vindicated. The other part wondered if Jaden was sitting at his desk right now feeling the same gut punch I had felt weeks ago. After work, I headed to my favorite dive bar in Williamsburg, the kind with sticky floors and cheap beer. I needed to process. Halfway through my second pint, the door opened and Jaden walked in. He scanned the room, spotted me, and headed straight over like he had every right. "Can I sit?" I shrugged. He slid into the booth across from me, ordered a whiskey neat, and waited until the bartender left. "I saw the shortlist email," he said quietly. "Your new project is incredible, Wyatt. Really. You deserve this." I took a long sip. "Thanks. Funny how inspiration strikes when someone steals your first one." He winced but didn't look away. "I messed up. Badly. And I've been trying to figure out how to make it right. The boss pressured me, said if I didn't deliver something groundbreaking immediately the whole team could lose bonuses. I was weak. But that doesn't excuse it." The bar noise faded into the background. His knee brushed mine under the table and neither of us moved. The contact sent warmth up my leg despite everything. "Why didn't you just tell me?" I asked. "Because I didn't want you to see me as weak. Or as someone who wanted more than friendship and was terrified to admit it." The words hung there. I stared at him, heart slamming against my ribs. "What are you saying, Jaden?" He swallowed hard. "I'm saying I've been falling for you since the first all-nighter we pulled. Every time we worked late, Every time you laughed at my terrible jokes, I felt it. But I'm still figuring out how to be honest with myself, let alone anyone else. Stealing the idea was me panicking and pushing you away before you could push me away first. The confession should have made me angry. Instead, it cracked something open inside my chest. All the nights I had lain awake wondering if the tension between us was real. It was, and he had been just as scared. I don't know if I can trust you again, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness tonight. Just don't quit. And maybe let me help with your new project if you want. No credit. No strings. Just because I believe in you. We sat in silence after that, finishing our drinks while the jukebox played old rock songs. When we stepped outside into the cool night air, Jaden hesitated on the sidewalk. Can I walk you to the subway? I nodded. We walked side by side, shoulders almost touching, the city lights reflecting in puddles from an earlier rain. For the first time in weeks, the knot in my stomach loosened a little. At the station entrance, he stopped. I'm proud of you, Wyatt. Whatever happens with the award, you earned it. Before I could answer, he turned and disappeared into the crowd. I rode the train home replaying his words. Falling for you. The phrase echoed in my head all night. The next month flew by in a whirlwind of revisions and late nights. I let Jaden review my drawings one evening after everyone else left. He pointed out a structural flaw I had missed, suggested a better material palette, and never once asked for his name on anything. His presence felt different now, charged with possibility instead of betrayal. But home life kept intruding. My parents flew in for a surprise visit, staying at a hotel near Times Square. Over dinner, my mom brought up Sarah again. She's really excited to meet you at the wedding. Your dad and I think you two would be perfect together. I pushed pasta around my plate. Mom, I'm focused on work right now. The competition is huge. Dad set his fork down. Work won't keep you warm at night, son. A man needs roots. Family. We didn't raise you to be alone in this big city. Their words pressed on the secret I carried. I wanted to tell them. I wanted to say the name Jaden out loud and see if the world ended. Instead, I smiled and changed the subject. Later that night, Jaden texted, "How was dinner with the parents?" I had mentioned the visit earlier at the office. I typed back honestly, "Heavy. They want me married off to some girl from church." His reply came fast. "I get it. Mine are the same. Want to grab coffee tomorrow and vent?" I said yes before I could overthink it. We met at a small cafe in Chelsea, the kind with exposed brick and plants hanging from the ceiling. Jaden arrived in a gray sweater that made his eyes look impossibly dark. We talked for hours, not just about work but about growing up, about the pressure to be the perfect son, about the fear of disappointing the people who loved us. "I came out to my sister last year," he admitted quietly. She hugged me and said she already knew. But telling my parents? I freeze every time I imagine it. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand for the first time. "You're not alone in that." He didn't pull away. Instead, his thumb traced a slow circle on my skin, and the simple touch felt like coming home. By the time we left the cafe, the sun was setting, painting the streets in warm orange. We walked toward the High Line, the elevated park where we had shared tacos months ago. This time, when our hands brushed, we let them stay linked. Neither of us said the word boyfriend. It was too soon, too fragile after everything. But something had shifted. The betrayal was still there, a scar, but it no longer defined us. The competition deadline approached fast. I submitted my final entry with Jaden's quiet input incorporated. He refused any credit, saying, "This is yours, Wyatt. Own it." On the day finalists were announced, my phone rang while I was in a client meeting. I stepped out and heard the words I had dreamed of. "Wyatt Thompson, you've been selected as one of 3 national finalists. The awards ceremony is in Washington, D.C. next month." I hung up and stood in the hallway, grinning like an idiot. When I told Jaden later, his face lit up with genuine pride. "You did it," he said, pulling me into a quick, fierce hug right there in the supply room. "I'm so damn proud of you." In that moment, with his arms around me and the scent of his cologne filling my lungs, I realized the award wasn't the biggest win. The biggest win was standing right in front of me, willing to fight for a second chance. The weeks leading up to the awards ceremony in D.C. were a blur of travel arrangements and nervous energy. I booked a hotel room for 2 nights, telling myself it was practical. Jaden offered to come with me as moral support, and after a long internal debate, I said yes. "Just friends," I texted him. Even though we both knew the line had blurred weeks ago, my parents called the night before I left. "We're so excited for you, honey," Mom gushed. "We told everyone at church you're up for a big design award. Make sure you mention your family in the speech." I laughed awkwardly. "It's not a guarantee I'll win, Mom." "You will," Dad said firmly. "And bring that girl Sarah next time you visit. She's been asking about you." The guilt twisted in my gut. I ended the call quickly and stared at my suitcase. Inside it, I had packed my best suit, the navy one Jaden had once complimented. I wondered what my parents would say if they knew who was really coming with me. Jaden picked me up at my apartment in a rideshare, looking sharp in dark jeans and a leather jacket. The drive to the airport was quiet at first. Then he reached over and rested his hand on my knee. "Nervous, terrified," I admitted. "Not just about the award. About everything." He squeezed gently. "We don't have to label anything yet. Just be there for each other. That's enough for now." The flight felt shorter with him beside me. We watched a dumb comedy on the tiny screen, shoulders touching, and for a few hours the weight of secrets lifted. Washington greeted us with crisp autumn air. The awards ceremony was held in a grand hotel ballroom overlooking the National Mall. Crystal chandeliers sparkled, and designers from across the country mingled in elegant attire. I spotted my shortlisted competitors, both older and more established. Doubt crept in. Jaden stayed close, his hand occasionally brushing the small of my back when no one was looking. "You belong here," he whispered during the cocktail hour. "More than anyone." The ceremony began after dinner. Speeches droned on about innovation and sustainability. When they announced the finalists for the Community Impact Award, my name was called third. I walked to the stage on shaky legs, the spotlight hot on my face. Jaden's eyes never left me from the audience. The presenter opened the envelope. "And the winner is Wyatt Thompson for Horizon Commons." The room erupted. I stood frozen for a second before stepping forward to accept the heavy glass trophy. The applause thundered in my ears. I managed a short speech, thanking my team at Horizon and the city that inspired me. I didn't mention Jaden by name, but I looked straight at him when I said, "And to the person who reminded me why I started designing in the first place, thank you for believing in me when I didn't." His smile was brighter than the stage lights. Back at our table, the congratulations poured in. Photographers snapped pictures. I clutched the trophy like it might vanish. Jaden leaned close during a lull. "You did it. You really did it." Later, in the hotel elevator, the energy between us crackled. We stepped into our room overlooking the illuminated Washington Monument. I set the trophy on the desk and turned to him. "I couldn't have done this without you," I said softly. "Even after everything." He stepped closer until only inches separated us. "I don't deserve that, Wyatt, but I'm trying to be the man who does." The air felt thick. I reached up and touched his face, feeling the stubble under my fingers. He closed his eyes and leaned into the touch. When our lips finally met, it was slow, careful, like both of us were afraid the moment might break. Didn't. It felt like coming home after a long, painful journey. We didn't rush. We just held each other, kissing softly, letting months of tension dissolve into something tender and real. No words were needed. The betrayal, the fear, the stolen idea, All of it faded against the warmth of his arms around me. The next morning we woke tangled in the sheets, sunlight streaming through the curtains. Jaden traced lazy circles on my chest. Last night was everything I've wanted for so long. Me too, I whispered. But we still have a lot to figure out. Work, my family, coming out. He nodded, serious. One step at a time. I'm not going anywhere. We flew back to New York that afternoon, the trophy carefully packed in my carry-on. At the office on Monday the news had spread. Partners shook my hand. Even the boss who had pressured Jaden months ago clapped me on the back. Great work, Thompson. That award is going to bring in new clients. Jaden kept a professional distance in public, but his texts throughout the day were full of private pride. Dinner at my place tonight? I'll cook. I smiled at my screen. Wouldn't miss it. That evening his apartment in Astoria felt different. Candles on the table, soft music playing. He had made pasta carbonara and opened a bottle of red wine. Over dinner we talked about everything and nothing, the easy rhythm we had lost finally returning. Afterward we moved to the couch, his head in my lap while I ran fingers through his hair. I told my sister about us, he said quietly. She's happy for me. For us. I swallowed. That's huge. Yeah. Baby steps. He looked up at me. When you're ready with your parents, I'll be there. However you want to do it. The support meant more than he could know. But the fear still lingered. What if they rejected me? What if the award didn't matter once they knew the truth? The following weekend my parents called again, this time on video. They had seen the local news coverage of the award. We're so proud, Mom said, tears in her eyes. Our son, a national winner. Dad nodded. Now about that wedding date. I took a deep breath. Actually, there's something I need to tell you both. Jaden sat beside me just out of frame, his hand resting on my knee for courage. The words trembled on my tongue, years of hiding ready to spill out. The silence on the video call stretched long enough for my heart to feel like it might stop. My mom's smile faltered first. What is it, honey? Are you okay? I glanced at Jaden beside me, his steady presence giving me strength. I'm more than okay, but I've been keeping something from you. I'm gay. The words left my mouth and hung in the digital air between us. Dad's face went blank. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Gay, Dad repeated like the word was foreign. Wyatt, this is a lot. Mom recovered faster, her voice shaky. Sweetheart, we love you. We always will. But are you sure? Maybe it's just a phase, with all the stress of work. It's not a phase, Mom. It's who I am. And I'm seeing someone. Someone important. Jaden squeezed my knee. On screen my parents exchanged a long look. Dad cleared his throat. This boy, does he treat you right? I smiled despite the tension. He does. He's the reason I kept going after everything at work fell apart. The conversation lasted another 20 minutes, filled with awkward questions and careful reassurances. They didn't hang up angry, but they didn't celebrate either. We need time to process, Mom said finally. We love you, Wyatt. That won't change. When the call ended, I collapsed against Jaden's chest. He wrapped his arms around me and held tight. You did it. That took courage I'm still working up to. Tears slipped down my cheeks. It hurt, but it also felt free. He kissed the top of my head. I'm proud of you. And when you're ready, I'll meet them. Or not. Whatever you need. The next days at the office carried a new lightness. Word of my win had brought new projects, and Jaden and I worked on one together officially this time, co-credited. The partners noticed our easy rhythm and said nothing, but the knowing smiles told me they suspected. One afternoon, the HR director pulled me aside. Just so you know, the firm has updated its diversity policy. You're safe here, Wyatt. Both of you. The relief was immense. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe at work. That Friday, Jaden took me to a small gallery opening in Chelsea featuring sustainable architecture exhibits. We walked hand in hand among the crowd, no longer hiding. A few colleagues spotted us and waved warmly. The normalcy felt revolutionary. Afterward, we grabbed late-night pizza and sat on a bench overlooking the Hudson. The city lights sparkled on the water. Jaden turned to me, serious. "I've been thinking about my own family. Seeing you come out, it made me realize I can't keep hiding forever either. I want to tell them. With you by my side if you're willing." I took his hand. "Always." The following month, we flew to Jaden's hometown in Ohio for Thanksgiving. His parents greeted us with warm hugs and too much food. His sister winked at me across the table, already in on the secret. After dinner, Jaden gathered everyone in the living room. "Mom, Dad, there's something I need to say." His voice was steady, but his hand gripped mine tightly. "I'm gay, and Wyatt is my boyfriend." The room went quiet for a heartbeat. Then his mom stood and pulled him into a hug. "We love you, baby. We always have." His dad clapped him on the back, eyes misty. "Took you long enough, son." Tears flowed freely that night, but they were healing ones. Later, alone in Jaden's childhood bedroom, he turned to me with wonder in his eyes. "I can't believe how easy that was. Because of you." We fell asleep tangled together, the weight of two families' acceptance settling gently over us. Back in New York, life settled into a beautiful routine. Mornings with coffee and kisses, evenings sketching side by side, weekends exploring the city we both loved. The old betrayal had become a story we told with laughter now, a chapter that led us here. But life has a way of testing new beginnings. One Tuesday, my boss called an emergency meeting. The Green Future client wanted changes to the Plaza project, the one originally based on my stolen idea. Jaden's face paled when the revisions were laid out. They contradicted everything sustainable about the original concept. After the meeting, he pulled me into an empty conference room. "I can't do this anymore, Wyatt. I have to tell them the truth. That idea was yours. I stole it. If they implement these changes, it'll ruin the whole thing." "You'll lose everything," I said quietly. "Your promotion, maybe your job." He shook his head. "I already lost the most important thing once when I hurt you. I'm not losing you again. And I'm not compromising my integrity anymore." That afternoon, Jaden walked into the partner's office and confessed everything. I waited outside, heart in my throat. When he emerged 20 minutes later, his face was pale but determined. "They're angry," he said, "but they're also impressed by your new award-winning work. They want us both on a special team to fix the project properly. No firing. Just consequences." Relief flooded me. We had survived the worst. That night, we celebrated quietly on my rooftop. The city spread out below us like stars. Jaden pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple silver key. "My place. Our place if you want. Move in with me, Wyatt." I laughed through happy tears and kissed him fiercely. Yes, life wasn't perfect. My parents still struggled with certain conversations, and Jaden's work reputation took a small hit. But we faced it together, stronger for every scar. The following spring, the firm hosted a gala to celebrate our corrected Plaza project, now fully credited to both of us. I stood on stage beside Jaden, the original trophy gleaming beside the new plaque. When he took the microphone, he looked straight at me. "None of this would have happened without the man who taught me what real courage looks like. Wyatt, thank you for forgiving me, for loving me, for being my partner in every sense." The audience applauded. I pulled him into a hug right there on stage, cameras flashing. In that moment, the journey felt complete. The gala after-party spilled onto the hotel terrace overlooking the river. String lights twinkled above us as colleagues raised glasses to the success. Jaden and I stayed close, his arm around my waist now openly. No more hiding. A few people came up to congratulate us on both the project and, with knowing smiles, on being together. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my mom. Saw the live stream of the speech. We're proud of you both. Bring Jaden home for Easter. I showed it to him and we grinned like teenagers. Later, back at our new shared apartment, we collapsed onto the couch, exhausted but happy. Jaden rested his head on my shoulder. Remember that day in the boardroom when I presented your idea? How could I forget? I teased gently. I thought I'd lost you forever. Now here we are, building something real. I don't deserve you, Wyatt. I tilted his chin up so our eyes met. You fought for us. That's what matters. We both grew up because of it. He kissed me softly, the kind of kiss that promised forever without needing words. The city hummed outside our windows, alive with possibility. The next months brought more changes. I mentored a new group of young designers, paying forward the lessons I had learned the hard way. Jaden started volunteering with an LGBTQ youth center, sharing his story of coming out later in life. Watching him help kids who were struggling the way we once had filled me with pride I couldn't put into words. One weekend we drove upstate to a cabin in the Catskills for some quiet time. The leaves were in full autumn glory, and the air smelled of pine and wood smoke. We hiked during the day and cooked simple meals at night. On the last evening we sat by the fireplace, wrapped in a blanket. I've been thinking about the future, Jaden said, tracing patterns on my arm. Marriage, maybe kids someday. Not right away, but with you. My heart swelled. I want that too. All of it. We didn't need rings or big announcements yet. The promise was enough. Back in the city, life continued its beautiful chaos. My parents visited for a long weekend and finally met Jaden in person. The dinner was awkward at first, but by dessert Dad was asking Jaden about his favorite football team and Mom was showing him old baby pictures of me. When they left, Mom hugged me extra tight. He's good for you. We see that now. The acceptance wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was everything. At work, our joint projects kept winning recognition. One afternoon, the partners called us into the big conference room again. This time it was good news. We're promoting both of you to senior leads. And we want you to head the new diversity initiative for the firm. Jaden and I exchanged glances, the same thought passing between us. The boy who had stolen my idea had helped build something better, not just in design but in life. That night we celebrated with friends at a rooftop bar, the skyline glittering around us. I looked at Jaden laughing with our group, his face lit by string lights, and felt a wave of gratitude so strong it nearly knocked me over. The journey from betrayal to this moment had been long and painful, but every tear, every doubt, every hard conversation had led here. Later, alone on our balcony, Jaden pulled me close. Remember when I asked for your trust back? I nodded. I promise I'll never break it again. I know, I whispered. Because we're in this together now. The city lights stretched endlessly below us, bright and full of promise. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of what tomorrow held. I had love, acceptance, and a future I had designed myself. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms lining the Brooklyn streets. Jaden and I walked to the farmer's market every Saturday, hands linked, picking out ingredients for our weekly Sunday brunches. Life had settled into a rhythm that felt both exciting and deeply peaceful. The old wounds had healed into scars we wore with pride, reminders of how far we had come. One sunny afternoon, we received an invitation in the mail. The Green Future competition was hosting a 5-year anniversary event in the very plaza we had helped redesign. They wanted us as guest speakers. Jaden read the letter aloud, then looked at me with that familiar sparkle in his eyes. Full circle, he said softly. We accepted. On the day of the event, the plaza was filled with families, kids playing on the interactive water features I had originally envisioned, couples sitting on the sustainable benches Jaden had helped perfect. The sun warmed the green roof gardens, and the community center buzzed with after-school programs. When it was our turn to speak, we stood together at the small podium. Jaden went first, voice steady. 5 years ago, I made a mistake that could have cost me everything that matters. I took credit for an idea that wasn't mine. But that mistake led me to the person who taught me what honesty, courage, and love really mean. He turned to me. I stepped forward, heart full. And I learned that sometimes the greatest betrayals open the door to the most authentic connections. Today, this plaza stands as proof that we can build something beautiful when we choose growth over fear. The crowd applauded warmly. Afterward, kids ran up asking for autographs on their drawings, and parents thanked us for creating a space where everyone felt welcome. As the event wound down, Jaden pulled me aside near the central fountain, the water sparkling in the late afternoon light. He reached into his pocket and took out a small velvet box. My breath caught. Wyatt Thompson, 5 years ago I almost lost you. Today I want to promise I'll spend the rest of my life making sure that never happens again. Will you marry me? Tears blurred my vision as he opened the box to reveal a simple platinum band engraved with tiny architectural lines. Our shared passion. Yes, I whispered, pulling him into a kiss right there in the plaza we had built together. The crowd around us cheered, but all I could feel was his heartbeat against mine. The wedding was small and perfect, held the following spring in that same upstate cabin where we had first talked about forever. My parents walked me down the aisle of wildflowers. Jaden's family filled the front rows, beaming with pride. When we exchanged vows, the words came easily, forged in fire and sealed with acceptance. I promise to always choose us, I said. I promise to never stop earning your trust, he replied. We kissed under a canopy of blooming trees while our friends and family clapped and wiped happy tears. Years later, when people asked how we met, we told the full story, the betrayal and the redemption, the fear and the courage. Young designers at the firm sometimes came to us for advice about love and career. We always told them the same thing. The path to authenticity is never straight, but it's worth every difficult step. Looking back now, standing on our balcony watching the city lights, I realized the stolen idea was never the real story. The real story was two men learning to be honest with themselves and each other, building a life where love and acceptance weren't just words but daily choices. And if anyone had told me that day in the boardroom that the man who broke my trust would one day become my husband, I would have laughed through the pain. Life, it turns out, writes better endings than any design sketch ever could. True or false? Sometimes the deepest workplace betrayal can lead to the most authentic love and personal acceptance.